We're rolling.
Okay.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. You know, here we talk to 6, 7, 8-figure entrepreneurs about their journey and what they're doing in their business, some challenges, some pitfalls, some success stories, and some techniques that you can utilize in your business to make it to the next level. And today I'm super excited because we're here with Diana, and she's going to talk to us about acquiring wealth through real estate. And one thing that I wish I did a lot of years ago was get into some real estate and invest early on so that I was on the journey to living my life the way I wanted to, where I am now at 40. So I'm excited to have this conversation. I think it's really important that we understand how do we actually acquire wealth through real estate. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Join me in welcoming Diana to the show. Diana, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you,
I'm
Stiso?
doing great. Thank you for being here. I see you in the car. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. So, and tell us, introduce yourself to the show. Where are you from, and then how did you get into the space that you're in?
absolutely. My name is Diana. I'm from California, San Francisco, California. And let's see. I'm actually not from here. I'm actually from Mexico, so I immigrated from Mexico. Wanted a better opportunity, was looking for the American dream, landed here.
Nice.
Um, and basically, my journey with real estate started because I really, really wanted to get into the multifamily arena. And the first step for me was to acquire my real estate license.
Nice, nice. And speaking, because one thing that you mentioned was the American dream, and I think this is a great point and some good dialogue for our audience to hear. So, coming from Mexico, immigrating to the States, and having an idea of American dream, like what was that for you? What was like the American dream that you pictured? What was the one that you were told, and was it true to your reality of what you thought?
Yeah, so I was actually brought here by my parents when I was little. I did not want to come here.
Oh,
Just to get it out of the way, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to miss my friends, my childhood, the family. But my dad said, you know what? We need to burn our ships and we need a better life. So the fact that we moved here, for me, it instilled a fire within me that I have to succeed no matter what. Of course, throughout the way, there were some challenges. Now, as far as, sorry, what was the second question?
like
Or second part
in
about it?
terms of like your idea of the American dream, like what
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that for you that to led you to say, okay, I didn't want to go, but now that I'm here, this is what I want to do because this is what people tell me the dream looks like.
Yeah, so okay, yeah, the American dream, what it looked like before was, oh, you need to buy a house, you have to have your own car, you have to have a career, go to school, traditional path. So that's what I did. But I found out that was not the route for me because I found myself stuck on a
Mm,
routine that I did not like.
got it. Got
Um,
it.
and now for me, the American dream looks like health, wealth, lifestyle.
I love that. Health, wealth, and lifestyle. I want to take note of that because I want to go into those health, wealth, and lifestyle because I think those three categories are super important in terms of the overall picture when it comes to success, right? Because some people, I literally did a speaking engagement a few weeks ago and I was like, what do we think of when we hear the word success? And the first response was money, and it's kind of crazy that we don't think about our vessel and our body and our lifestyle and what that looks like in terms of success. So going back to you starting out in your career, you noticed that, you know what, it was a routine you didn't like. What got you interested in real estate as the next option versus something else?
Yeah. So my sister, she is an economist by career,
Okay.
and she was the one who started talking about, hey, um, the number one vehicle that has created freedom for people has been real estate. And, didn't think about it when I was in high school much. I just thought, oh, okay, so real estate. Um, Years later, I graduate high school and she starts talking about, oh, we're going to buy a property near university, and what we're going to do is build apartments and rent them out, make them affordable to these students. And she started showing me a model of what that would look like. And then she started showing me more numbers. So she said, you know what, this is how much we invested. This is what each apartment's going to be rented out at. And this is how much we project is going to produce over 7-year period time. And once I looked at the numbers, I thought, oh my God, I chose my career in business administration. Didn't know exactly which path I wanted to go. I just knew that I wanted to be in business.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mentioned, once I saw those numbers, I started seeing a pattern. The numbers tell you a story. The numbers will not lie. And that's the number one thing that she taught me. And that is how I started thinking, okay, what's the difference between a property that has one door versus a property that has many doors?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where I saw the vehicle for me to see myself free from the rat race where I felt I was stuck. So one door can't produce passive income versus one property that has many doors will give you some freedom and will give you tax write-offs, benefits, things like that. So it clicked immediately right there for me. I thought, this is my vehicle. This is how I want to be free from the rat race.
Got it. Nice. And so I guess it's not just Jay-Z, y'all, that said men lie, women lie, numbers don't. It was bad because it, right? So,
Yeah.
and it's true that it's in everything when it comes to wealth. What I started to realize in having mentors and coaching is like, it is a numbers game. Like everything is a numbers game. How much money do you want to make? Okay, well, what's your product and how many people do you need to sell it to? Or, what does the price need to be? And then now how many people do you want to have to sell it to? So that is completely true. And going back to like acquiring your real estate license in California, if there's somebody watching right now, they're either sitting in their living room and they're like, you know what? I thought about going ahead and doing this, but it just seemed too scary. I don't want to do it. What are some like tips to get through it? Because what I hear from most people who are in the real estate industry right now, you take the test to pass it, but you don't use any of that information in real life, right? So what was sort of like your strategy to get your license, and how long did it take for you to do it?
Yeah, so my strategy to obtain my real estate license, first of all, was getting to know other real estate agents. I studied their path, which was very similar. They all stated, you know what? First, find the resources, get informed, get some information because there is a lot of information out there, but make sure you have information from someone who's already doing it, who is willing to teach you and who is willing to tell you what the path looks like. So that's exactly what I did. I went around looking for people who are already realtors, and they showed me the path. They said, you know what? First, find, you could do this through a community college and take classes as units, or you can go into online. And they actually gave me, well, actually, one of them gave me the institute that he assisted to, which for me was very convenient. It was like 20 minutes from my house, and I could do it at my own pace. So you could do it online, you could do a hybrid, or you can do it in person. For me, I chose hybrid. It worked out perfectly for me because I was still working. I still had a regular job, but I still wanted to improve myself. I still wanted to do real estate and do it, all the way, fall in all the way, and just breathe it, study it, make sure I'm there. And once I took a look at the institute, the link that he sent me, I liked it. I wasn't that expensive, so I thought, okay, I can put some money aside and I can invest on this, or I can pay up front with my credit card and just pay off my credit card.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. The program was 6 months for me since it was hybrid. If it's in person, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. It's maybe a year. If it's in Zoom, you get to decide if you want to do it 6 months, a year. Maybe you're doing it a little bit longer because, again, it's at your own pace. And then at the end, you'll take a test. And once you pass the test, if you don't pass, it's okay. Just continue. I didn't pass the first time, so just don't give up. It can be hard. I know some of the terms are very difficult to understand, but as long as you're studying, as long as you're practicing it, as long as you're putting it into practice in real life, you'll know what it looks like. You'll have more of an experience. You'll have the notion, and you'll say, oh, I saw this term on X part, and now I'm applying it, and I know what it looks like now.
Right. So your suggestion would be have that person who's sort of like your mentor, your coach, as you're going through the learning process, because then you can just piece the two together. I think that's a great point of advice. I actually did the online course. I still have to do the legal ethics or legal aspects or whatever it is, but I kind of just like put it down because, to your point, some of the terminology and the verbiage, I was like, I am never going to remember this word. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do this. So I like how you mentioned putting the two together, actual practice in the fields and your study, combining the two and going hybrid if you need to. Like, some people learn better in person, working with others. Some people learn better just being alone. Can you still hear me okay? I think we might have froze. Let's see, we might have froze. So we might have to get Diana back in the room if she has to pop off and come back on, because we are live show, but this is what happens. You pivot and you work through it. And so we are talking to Diana about acquiring wealth through real estate and the importance of being able to balance health, wealth, and a lifestyle was what got her into wanting to get into the field of real estate. And so you guys know, if you're in a position where you're working towards being a successful entrepreneur, 6, 7, 8-figure earner, there are different reasons. Like, everybody has their own why. So my why could be very different from someone else's, but for the most part, we find that there's a common denominator in terms of people who want success and people who gain success, right? The ones who actually gain it are the ones who want the time freedom. They want to be able to spend time with their families and go to the birthdays or go to the weddings and not have to worry about submitting paperwork and getting approval. They want to be able to work in their strength wheelhouse without having someone over their shoulders. They want to be able to give back to other people. They want to be able to provide jobs for others, right? So there's some entrepreneurs who they want to grow and scale their business to a point where they can hire people and be able to give them the opportunity to make money, give them the opportunity to grow their own wealth for their family. So when it comes to health, wealth, and lifestyle, if you're positioning yourself to become successful, you're able to really max out in those areas. And that's not to say someone who works a 9 to 5 cannot max out in those areas. You can. You just, again, someone who's working towards the entrepreneurial journey might look at time freedom as really being the important part, because you cannot have the same time freedom that you have working for someone else that you do working for yourself. So keep that in mind. And we were talking about the difference between a single family unit, right? Having one door. She was talking about having one door versus having a multi-family unit. So having multiple doors, because the more doors you have, you do the math, that's the money you're going to produce. So if you have a single family and that single family is bringing in $2,000 on the month versus having a multi where you have 14 doors and those 14 doors are bringing in $2,000 each, then you are maxing out your income that way, your revenue. So welcome back.
Sorry, thank you.
Oh, you're fine. It's a live show, so things happen. No worries. I was just giving the audience a little bit of my feedback on, health, wealth, and lifestyle, and the importance of creating that success dynamic for your own vision of what your life needs to look like for you. And I know for a lot of people who are in this space, like whether they're doing real estate or they're doing something else as an entrepreneur, it's really about the time freedom and being able to have the luxury of owning your time without, clocking into a specific job. But if you're a 9 to 5er, it's not a bad thing. You just don't have the same time freedom because you do have to clock in at a certain time, take a lunch at a certain time. So it really just depends on what works for you. So flipping back into the real estate aspects, I want to get into talking about of actually acquiring that wealth, right? And so when you started out, you got your license, you started practicing in the field, you knew like your game plan was to have a multifamily versus a single because you wanted to have multiple doors. So that's going to generate you more money. What's your suggestion for someone starting out that is looking to have some passive income? They may not be looking at 6, 7, 8 figures right away, but they want to start somewhere. Like they literally don't have a clue where to start. Where would they start?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like me when I started. The first thing that I did was get information with realtors. That's number one. Well, before that, actually, save some money so that you can invest. Then maintain the relationships with the realtors because they will tell you they have access to this thing called MLS, which is market. Yeah, the market. Before it hits the websites like Redfin, Trulia, they'll have properties. And if you can close a deal like this with the owner before it hits the web page, it's a better deal 9 times out of 10, honestly. And what I did was basically try to have a cushion of at least 10 to 20%. So what I did in the beginning was save a lot, save a lot. And then the next thing that I was advised to do, since I didn't know how to close deals in the beginning, was to invest with other people who were already closing on deals so that I would have access to what the process looks like taking a look. Multifamily, for example, well, it's the same thing for residential as well, but in multifamily there's this process. It's like a checklist. So you have to take a look at the deal, you have to underwrite it, make sure the numbers make sense. Sometimes, like me, I wasn't the type of person that the bank would probably loan a huge amount of money to. So the way that you would get qualified is through other people who already were doing this. So I became a part of their deals. And once, they're depending on their strategy, I like the strategy with the people that I was with, which is they would buy the property, they would raise money to invest, they would raise the money to pay for the closing fees and things like that. And then once they would close on it, then you have a share for that. So every month you're receiving passive income. Depending on the percentage that you invest, that's the percentage that you'll be receiving as well on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending on if you're accredited or non-accredited.
Okay.
And then that's how it worked out for me. That's how the money started to increase more on my end. And I started to have more money to invest.
Right.
So that's what I did with them first. And then I learned how to close deals first in residential, and then I moved over to multifamily.
Okay. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to just recap it to make sure one, I understood it correctly and the audience got it. So you're suggesting to pretty much pool in with some other people that are getting ready to close a deal. So say they have a multifamily, the multifamily is $1 million property or whatever the down payment is, 20%, let's just say each person kind of puts in what they can. And then you get the payout based on what you put in. And then you use that money that you're earning there to then invest later into your own property, but you're also getting the knowledge of how to do it and close the deal. That's genius. And I think to that point, there is definitely an opportunity for more communities, especially like the Black community, to use this strategy, right? And not so much go into real estate or into even business thinking that you have to do it alone, right? There's an opportunity for everyone to win. And I know some of that comes from how some of us are raised with like money being of lack and no, what's mine is mine because I worked so hard to get it. So now I have to hold on to it. And like, how dare you get a piece of what I have? And it's like, if we can just turn that around, like we can all be millionaires, right? Like we all have it within us. So that was a good gem. If you just tuned in or if you're just catching this somewhere and you're not you weren't here from the beginning, rewind and then watch that back because Diana just really dropped the gem for you all on not only how to gain knowledge on real estate and how to really do it, but to also invest money to get your own property and build passive income while you're learning. So that was spot on. Thank you for that. So fast forward, you learned what you needed to learn, you invested some money, and then you started to work on getting your own multi-unit.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I started.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I started with something small. So if a lot of people, you think sometimes that you have to start big, but if you don't have the funds, you can't start big. That's the problem. So for me, I started with a 4 unit, a fourplex, which was really easy because for me at least, at the time I had been a first time home buyer. I had never owned anything. So if you buy a fourplex, you can live in one of the units and rent the other three.
Mm,
Hmm.
okay.
And that becomes your passive income after everything is paid for on a monthly basis.
So technically, you're covering first time homeowner in
Hmm.
addition to getting the passive income all in one.
Yes.
Nice. So the
Hmm.
only like other side of that, they're probably knocking on your door when they need something, right? But
that
right, work
that's
that.
the only thing about that. I feel like the only thing about that was that, yeah, I had to wear many hats in the beginning, but also that's how I learned, which is why I was saying maybe when you start out, if you can stay as much as you can investing with other people while you're learning, do that. Because yeah, you will wear many hats like me. When I started, I had, to deal with plumber issues. I had to deal with painting, landscaping, the trash. I mean, it's maintenance, all of that stuff you have to take care of. But I was lucky enough. My family wanted to get involved. They wanted to learn. They were very excited. They had never seen someone in our family obtain a multifamily building, let alone 4 apartments. I was ecstatic, but you have to start somewhere. If you have to start small, go ahead. There are benefits because in this area for me it was considered residential because I was living in one of the units. It
Mhm.
wasn't considered a business. But once you move on to something bigger, then it starts turning into commercial and investment opportunity. So when it gets bigger, essentially what you're buying is a business, or you're
Nice.
investing in a business. Yeah.
Wow, that's really really intelligent. So you all start small.
Hmm.
Don't go for the big guy. You don't have to get the biggest fish in the fish tank right away. Start small and then start feeding that fish and get that one growing, and
Yeah.
then go for the big guy. Because that was always a question I would have is like, okay, do you go single? Do you go multi? And I've been on a few podcasts like as an audience member, and I would hear people say like it's challenging to get into a multi-family unit. So if you can get in by being the first time home buyer, living in one of the units and renting it, that's your cheat code, you guys, to get in there. So very, very good feedback. And now, what are some of the risks involved with acquiring a multifamily versus a single?
Yeah. I think some of the risks include, you know, uh, people will always move. So you run the risk of maybe in 1 month you won't have tenants at all. So then you are responsible for making those payments as if you had the tenants.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
have to respond to that, or for that amount. So if you're paying 2,000 a month on one unit, then that means the other three, if they're the same size, you're paying that much as well. So that's $8,000 that you have to input to make your payment. So you always want to make sure that you keep your tenants happy, that there are rules in place. For example, here in California, one of the risks is us landlords. We don't have a lot of benefits here. So, like, if someone doesn't make their payment, maybe this month, and for up to almost a year, they don't have to. That's
Hmm.
the thing, and you can't just evict someone. That's why there are laws, and that don't benefit us as investors here in California, but there's still opportunity here. Just want to emphasize that, but
Okay.
that's definitely one of the risks.
So even with the lease situation, right? So you have someone on a lease, and I think California, you have a lease the first year, and then you're month to month. Is that the process? Okay, so if
That's
someone's
correct.
renting out, and again, we're not suggesting that people are not going to do what they need to do and be
Yeah.
responsible, but I think the other side of understanding acquiring the wealth through real estate is for people to understand the risk involved so that they can plan. So if you have a tenant who is not paying their rent, they could be in your unit for up to a year and not be evicted.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then another one of the risks I think it's big is, when you're looking for a property, you really have to make sure you do your due diligence, because there could be things like maybe there's termites that you don't know. You have to have someone with you who knows the property, or who has, this knack for looking for things. Have to make sure that um, it's in an appropriate area where you're not going to get flooded, because if you're going to get flooded in the area, you have to purchase additional insurance, things like that. So you have to always cover yourself. I guess another one of the other risks, I think, by doing the numbers correctly, because sometimes the banks will tell you, hey, yes, you are qualified, but then they miss out on something that is an expense that should be maybe in a different column of the accounting.
Okay. And give us an
So,
example of what one of those things would be.
mhm.
What's like
um,
an example?
yeah. So, for example, right now I'm walking a property. That's the next thing I'm gonna do after this. And so right now we found out with the person who's with me walking the property. He just found out that this property would actually be worth less money, because there is underground pipes that are very, very old. They're probably 200 years old. And this place has been vacant for about 3 years. And they're asking actually 20% more for this property when it's actually worth less. See, had I not known this, I would have probably gone to the bank and showed them all of my paperwork. And they would have stated, oh, we can let you borrow maybe 5 million for the property to buy it. But if I find out later, I sign everything. If I find out later that that's actually something that the investors, for previous investors, needed to cover that for me to fix it before I
Right.
buy it, then that's now my expense.
Mm. So do your homework is
Mm-hmm.
important. Do your
Yes,
homework. Because some things sometimes they look too good to be true. And that's when you know, okay,
exactly.
let me just do some investigating and see if this is actually the right thing to make. So great. Again, risks are important, understanding what the risk could potentially be. Because some people may not think about, well, if I don't have a unit that's filled, okay, I do have to cover the rent, but you have to cover everything else that comes with it too, maintenance and so on and so forth. So on the opposite side of that, and then we'll wrap it up with getting to the health, the wealth, and the lifestyle. When it comes to investing, you get your first multi. What's kind of your tips or advice you would give to the audience? Like, do you go ahead and put that equity into buying another property, or what's kind of the game plan so that they can set themselves up to have a great portfolio within real estate?
Yeah, that's what I did actually. You have it right on point. I take out the equity and put it into another property. That's what I do. One of the things that one of my mentors always told me was, make sure that when you pull out equity, you put it into another investment. You don't want to give Uncle Sam more than they already are taking from you. You want to
Yes.
make sure you have all of this money invested. That way, the passive income can take care of you.
Good tip.
Mhm.
And we don't want to give Uncle Sam more than they already have.
They're already taking too much, and I already feel for my people who are working 40 hours a week. Maybe they were like before, like I was before too. Working 40 hours a week, working overtime, and they're already taking so much out of your paycheck. It's like frustrating to live paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. It's like, when am I gonna breathe?
Exactly. Yeah, it's quite rough. And so real estate is definitely a lucrative industry. And I know we're like in a recession or heading into it, or who knows what's happening right nowadays. but are there specific time frames that someone should look at investing and look at just chilling and just kind of watching? Like, what is your feedback or your suggestion on when is it time to go? When is it time to like put the brakes on?
Yeah, based on what I've studied along with my mentors as well, is the time to invest can be any time, but the best time is always, for example, going into a recession. As long as you have your money saved, you are in a position to have power to invest in real estate. And I say this because if interest rates are high, you buy, right? And then once the interest rates are low, you refinance, and now you have money to invest, and now your payments are also lower. And if you buy when the interest rates are low, if they become higher later in the future over time, then you're also making money right there. If you sell on the property, everybody gets paid out.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you got me thinking. I might have to go back and finish this legal
Yeah.
aspects. And, really, again, on a serious note, is take the time now, guys. Like, Diana's here letting you know from the first time she saw that layout and that plan of how she can create wealth based on getting a multi-unit versus a single, just getting into real estate. You can make it happen. You just got to put your skin in the game, get a good mentor, get a good coach. And start saving the money that you can right now, put it aside, start small. That's our feedback. Start small. Don't worry about going too big right out the gate. Start small, get an idea of how it works, and then build as you go, and then grow your portfolio as you go along. And those are all very, very good tips. Diana, thank you so much. Let the audience know where they can find you for more information, and then any opportunities that you have coming up now to work with you or your team, or whatever information you would like to leave.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm everywhere online. My name is Diana Hernandez. You can find me on Instagram at dia.na10x on Instagram, and then everywhere else, Diana Hernandez, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere else. Mm-hmm.
All the social platforms.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, did you just get 10X from Grant Cardone's program?
Yes. Yes, I
we
did.
are not going to leave this episode. When you said that, it reminded me. I was like, wait, I remember saying something about 10X. We will not just go over that.
Yeah.
Like, please tell us, like, what that was like. How did you get to that point? And exactly what's Grant Cardone's 10X for the audience who doesn't know?
Man, okay. I got into 10X because in 2021 I had back surgery, and I thought, oh my God, this is the end of the tunnel for me. But then I came across one of his ads on YouTube, and it was all about his book, The 10X Rule. So I didn't think about it twice. I bought the book because I was really sad. I was depressed. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be paralyzed from my waist down. I'm never going to walk again, never going to do the things that I like. And that's how I ended up purchasing the book. The book arrives, and I read it within 3 hours, and then I understood immediately. His book was about making your life better, being successful, whatever that looks like for everybody. It's totally different, and it's not a one size fits all. So what's 10X for you might not be for me, but what it's for me, it might not be for you. So it's the same thing, but essentially everybody's in the same frequency because we all want to do better. We all want to feel good. We all want to look good. We all want to have money. We have goals. We want our family to be better, to do better, to feel great, to travel, to, a lot of things. And that's how I understood the 10X rule. It's all about 10Xing your life, whatever that looks like for you.
Yes, for sure. So I didn't want to just breeze over that. I completely forgot that note. So on that note, because that's a positive and that's an up and that's a win, make sure you go out here, 10X your potential. You can do it. It's within you already. You just have to take the right action steps. You have to take imperfect action sometimes and get uncomfortable and just go out there and win. So again, you can find Diana at dia.na10x. So
Correct.
Make sure you go follow her on Instagram. Thank you, Diana, so much for spending the time. I know you're getting ready to run and check this property. Good luck with everything. We'll see you guys on another episode of the Imperfect Action Show. Have an amazing weekend. Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.